Hey, our nerds, we are going to continue talking about our character design unit, and today we are going to be focusing on basic body proportions. One of the most important factors of human figure drawing, sketching, and painting is proportions. Have you ever seen a child's drawing of a person? Typically, what makes it look most childish isn't the lack of detail or proper shading, but the fact that the legs may be shorter than the arms or the hands may be larger than the feet. All bodies are different and no one body is perfect or ideal. Do not confuse proper body proportions with perfect body proportions. Even if you aren't the greatest artist in the world, if the proportions on your figure drawing are accurate, the realism and integrity of the figure is preserved. We see bodies all the time, and the eye knows instinctively when the proportions are out of whack. The human body is one of the most complex shapes in the planet. Proportions are the first thing to learn when drawing bodies because they teach you how to be anatomically correct. This can be accomplished by charting out the body and identifying which joints match up to the others, which is what we are going to be doing today. A well-proportioned figure, regardless of variations due to gender or such, is defined by the alignment of the joints, which is invariable. That is, we perceive something odd if it does vary and it looks just weird. This is our groundwork for proportions. Draw your own chart with me as we go. It really helps with learning this stuff. So start by drawing an oval or an egg shape at the top of your paper, okay, pointy end down. And this is going to be the head. And mark down 8 measurements that are the same size as the head all the way down towards the bottom of your page, the last one being the ground, okay? And label them 1 through 8. The measurement, ideal male height 8 heads, was set down during the Renaissance as an idealization of the human form. It's rather obvious that very few people are actually 8 heads tall. Even Northern Europeans, who served as the basis for this model, they were closer to 7 heads tall. But this is still the best model to start with, as it makes it easier to grasp the alignments. Next, add the pelvic bone, simplified as a flattened circle between marks 3 and 4, with the hip joints sitting on 4. Those are the small circles you see on either side. Its width is roughly 1.5 to 2 heads wide. You can now draw the spine connecting the head to the most important part of the body, its center of gravity and stability. That's the pelvis. Let's assume this figure is standing with feet vertically aligned with the hip joints. The knee joints sit on mark 6, as that line corresponds to the bottom of the kneecaps. When the leg is stretched out, the knee joint is placed on a straight line with the hip and ankle left. Okay, but this straight line is virtual. To complete the leg, connect the hip joint to the inside of the kneecap, and then again, the outside of the knee to the inside of the ankle. And this is on the right. Notice how they are different. This is a very simplified but accurate representation of the actual bone structure, and this helps in drawing the natural look of the human leg, which tapers from the hip, then staggers out at the knee and tapers again. It also helps with placing the muscles at a later stage in your drawing. The rib cage lungs group is the third most important volume of the body after the head and the pelvis. Simplified, it is an oval that starts halfway between 1 and 2 down to mark 3. But it is best to chop off the lower part as it is shown here to imitate the actual rib cage, okay? The empty part between those 2 volumes is very important, okay? It is soft and subject to change, fat belly, soft belly, flat belly, whatever, okay? And it is also where most of the torsion and movement happens in the spine, okay? There's a lot of twisting and stuff that goes on there. It is good to be aware of that and not attach the torso to the pelvis together like 2 big blocks, as it would block your drawing's range of motion. The width of the oval is roughly the same as the pelvis for now. 2 more details here, okay? First, the nipples fall on mark 2, just inside the sides of the head. And second, the belly button falls on mark 3. Notice the blue dots on the right image. The shoulder line is about halfway between marks 1 and 2, with the shoulder width 2 to 3 head widths. But its apparent position can vary quite a great deal. To begin with, it's slightly curved down, but in tension, the shoulders tense up and the curve can itself turn up and look higher. Furthermore, the trapezius muscle, which from the front appears to connect the shoulder with the neck, is highly individual. If it's very muscular or carries much fat, it can make the shoulder line look so high that there's no neck. Inversely, an underdeveloped trapezius, often seen in a very young woman, gives the impression of a long neck. And this brief digression into non-skeletal details is to ensure that there's no confusion between the actual position of the shoulder line and its apparent placement in a fleshed out body, some examples of which are seen here. Finally, the arms. The wrists are on mark 4, slightly below the hip joints, which sit on it. The fingers end roughly at mid-thigh, which is mark 5. The elbows are slightly complicated as a joint that we'll examine later in detail, but for now, it's helpful to mark them as elongated ovals sitting on level 3. We're done. Well, almost. Before summing this up, let's extend those marks into lines and see how this works in a basic profile. Okay, so profile means from the side. Start by drawing the head again. Okay, the same egg shape, but with the end pointing diagonally down, and drop a vertical line from the crown to the ground. Okay, in an erect posture, you can place the pelvic bone, a narrower version of the head's egg, okay, the shoulder and knee roughly on this vertical line. They are on the same level as before. All the joints are, but the others are not in the same place as these. From the side, the spine is revealed as being shaped like a flattened S. From the base of the skull, From the side, the spine is revealed as being shaped like a flattened S. From the base of the skull, it moves down and back till it reaches its furthest point at the level of the shoulders. Note that the shoulder joints are ahead of the spine. This is again because the shoulder line is in reality an arc. It's more curved. Okay, the blue circle shows a top view of what I'm talking about. And the spine then comes back forward and peaks again a little above the pelvis. And this is at the small of the back, which varies in depth and can make it look like someone has an arched back. Okay. Finally, it changes direction again and ends at the tailbone. The rib cage is closely attached to the spine, and in a reasonably fit body standing erect, the chest is naturally pushed forward. The hip joint is ahead of our vertical axis, and this is counterbalanced by the ankle being a bit behind it. So our hip-knee-ankle line is slanted backward and staggered again, from hip joint to front of the knee joint, from the back of the knee joint to the ankle. And the overall effect of this posture is a visual arc from head to chest to feet. And you can see that in the green on the image on the far right. And when it's flattened or reversed, we perceive an uncertainty or slouch in the posture. Finally, the arms. Again, the upper arm falls fairly straight from the shoulder, so the elbow can be aligned with the latter or fall slightly backward. But the arm is never fully stretched when at rest. So the forearm is never vertical. The arm is slightly bent and the wrist falls forward right over the hip bone. So when the hand is relaxed, fingers curl a little as shown here. So this completes the basic undifferentiated human proportions. And here's a diagram to kind of sum up everything that we've talked about so far. Anywho, that is basic body proportions. Definitely check out my video about male versus female proportions and other videos about character design. Have fun!